Welcome to Newrealities. My name is Alan Steinfeld, and on this program I'd like to explore the possibilities of who we are as an evolving, spiritually connected race on this planet, where we're going to, and how the nature of our perceptions about reality are changing. Today's guest is someone who's devoted a lot of time and energy into explaining the process of this evolution, and he's a channel for Bashar. Daryl Anka is the guest, and he will be channeling Bashar, who is a consciousness from another time and space. So I'm very excited about that possibility of doing this channeling right as we see it live. But let me talk to Daryl. Hey, Daryl.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. So you've been channeling for Bashar for
24 years.
24 years. And what I'm curious about is the process of what you do to tap into that other place in order to bring this entity through. Could just describe that.
Yeah, the connection process, as I understand it, is kind of a telepathic contact, and what I've been trained to do is change the frequency of my own brain waves to be something closer to the level on which they exist. And at the same time, Bashar will do the same thing from his end, so that somewhere in the middle, the brainwave frequencies meet and lock together. And what you then get is his thoughts translating into the language that I obviously was raised to understand, which is English. He's not speaking, he's just sending thoughts, but I'm translating that because our wavelengths are synchronized.
But how do you actually make that shift to go there?
Well, in the beginning, when I was being trained, it was a matter of going through different kinds of meditational exercises in order to learn how to get the brain waves to shift that way. At this point, 24 years later, it's a very automatic thing. As soon as I just open myself up to that connection, the process just now happens automatically, and it just takes me to that level.
So just before we go into the channel, so you sort of relax into yourself, you would say?
Yeah, it's kind of, for me, it's like falling into kind of a daydream state. And when Bashar is coming through, I don't so much hear the words in much the same way that if you were having a daydream, you might not hear somebody come into the room and call your name, or the words would sound like they're a million miles away. I have my own experience, which is sometimes energetic. Sometimes I'll feel maybe the emotionality of the concept that's being discussed. I might get abstract images. I don't always know how those images relate to what is being discussed, but I know the concept that's being discussed will sink into my consciousness in whatever way I might need to use it in my life, but the words are completely secondary, and when I come out of it, it's like waking up from a dream. The whole thing just fades, and I don't really know what was said.
One more question before you go into do you ever play with those states of consciousness in a sense where you may just experiment and sort of go there, but hold a little back just to observe your own
Well,
mind?
I think channeling is a natural state that everyone can do and everyone does from time to time. Anytime you become involved in anything you love to do and you get lost in that moment, that's a channeling state. So I certainly use that state creatively in my own work, in film and art and things like that. So I think everyone does that, and I'll certainly use it in that context. And sometimes, rarely, I might open up to just get a download, let's say, from higher levels or from Bashar for something I may want to specifically know about, but I don't use it for that as often as I just use it for my own creative expression.
So it's been fun these last few...
Yeah, it's been a terrific ride.
You don't feel like you've missed a part because some channels complain like, I'm not there?
No, well, no. I mean, there were times when I was channeling so much that it was kind of like I didn't have a life, and I wasn't really grounded here. I was kind of like sort of dizzy half the time, and I just learned to regulate myself because it's equally important for the channel to learn and grow from this experience as it is for the people that the information is being delivered to. Right. So it's important for the channel to also take the time to have a life and incorporate that information.
Great, great, thank you.
Sure.
So,
Ready?
Can you just could you talk as you do it? Is it possible you can't talk us through it? So we can all get there ourselves.
No, sorry.
No, okay, so do your thing. I mean,
all right.
But could you just describe a little bit where you put your mind before you actually go in there?
Well, again, at this point, all I really am doing is just relaxing in a way that just opens me up to whatever is going to connect. It's the best thing I can do is just describe it as a state of total trust. It's like you're putting yourself kind of in someone else's hands for a moment and just letting that energy take over the driver's seat.
Yeah. It's so exciting to watch because it's as if at some point someone grabs the back of your neck and sort of yanks you.
The energy will align my body
Yeah.
in order to make sure that it is where it needs to be supported. The breathing will change and everything to add extra oxygen to support the extra energy. So everything that's happening is simply an automatic side effect of the need for my body to be able to sustain that state in a way that doesn't exhaust me. It actually energizes me at the end. So
Thanks. Okay.
Sure.
And you can try this at home.
or do try this at home.
Try it at home. Okay. Thanks. This is exciting. I don't think anyone's ever actually channeled on the program during the interview, but no, go ahead.
I'll say good day to you this day of your time. How are you?
Very good. Thank you so much for being here.
It is our pleasure always to co-create these transmissions with each and every one of you. For in doing so, we are allowed to experience through all of you different facets of the multidimensional crystal of all that is. It also forms a link and a bridge between your reality and ours and creates and generates a third reality in which we may all one day interact more closely. So we thank you for this opportunity and we thank you for this gift and we invite you to commence in whatever way, shape, or form your imagination so desires. What would you like to discuss this day?
Well, first of all, the process, because I talked to Daryl a little bit about what happens. Are you waiting on this other side for him to just go to that space?
No real waiting is happening on our behalf because we can instantly sense when the connection needs to happen. Time for us is not what it is for you. We may be having this communication with you in what you would consider to be your past or your future. So it doesn't necessarily interrupt our time frame when you decide to do this. So it is simply a matter of our consciousness being aware of when a connection is being made, and when that connection is being made, our lives will synchronistically simply allow us to be at the right place, the right time in order for the connection to happen. And we simply allow it to form.
So you weren't busy doing something else like having lunch or something and then
No,
decided?
besides which we don't eat.
Okay, no, but the synchronicity is so much a part of how your society functions.
It is exactly how our society functions. Not just a part, it is in that sense the overriding controlling factor. We allow synchronicity to be the representation of the orchestration, the natural harmonic orchestration of all that is, when each and every individual in a society is allowed to be the full individual that they are and allowed to express themselves to their full capacity, then you will discover that an automatic orchestration of unification and harmony takes place and guides each and every individual to be at the right place, the right time, interacting with exactly whom they need to interact with at exactly the right moment. And there are, in that sense, then, no accidents.
But some people say that actually is also happening here.
It is, but you don't know it.
Right.
And so the idea is to be aware of it so that you can utilize it in a way that is to your positive, constructive benefit, instead of allowing yourselves to also create the idea of what you might classically call negative synchronicity, which also does happen.
So by being aware that everything is happening for a divine synchronistic purpose, we get tapped into the flow.
Yes, and in riding that flow, in riding that wave, each and every individual is also supported in whatever that individual is most excited about accomplishing or doing or expressing in life.
So the problem that happens here is that the mind gets in the way, what you call the physical mind, thinking that we have to control things.
Yes, physical mind is not designed in that sense to control life. It is not designed to make things work. It is not even designed to know how things, in a sense, will actually come to be. Within a limited frame of reference, yes, physical mind can be used for pattern recognition and figuring certain kinds of logical ideas out, but it has limitations. And the idea is that in terms of how things will actually manifest in your life, what factors will actually come into place to allow your life to manifest and unfold in the way that would best represent your natural self, the higher mind is designed to do that, but physical mind is not. Physical mind is designed to experience what the higher mind has manifested, and thus physical mind understands what has happened. But it operates mostly in the idea of the present experience and past tense. And thus, when the physical mind attempts to use past experience to attempt to figure out how to create future manifestation, it becomes frustrated and stuck, and often will find that attempting to do the same thing over and over again will simply put it into a rut or a cycle. Whereas if physical mind learns to communicate with higher mind and allows higher mind to simply bring to bear how something needs to happen, and physical mind simply sits back and allows itself to experience that manifestation and understand how it did happen, then physical mind is doing the job it was designed to do and allowing higher mind to do its job as well.
Because we are really the higher mind in essence, in our divine essence, would you say?
Yes.
Okay. One little thing, or if you could back up and tell us where you're from, who you are, basically, what time frame you exist in.
We are in what you might call an alternate dimension of reality, although we have our own discussion, shall we say, with physical reality. We have our own experience, shall we say, with the idea of physical reality. You would perceive us as somewhat physicalized. In our reality, we exist, like you, on a planet. In its ancient term, it is called Ethithani, which means place of living light. We are, in that sense, genetically related to your species, which is why we bear some resemblance to you, as we are an offshoot hybrid race created in part with human genetic material. We, in that sense, are also evolving in our own capacity, and in that we are connected to you, in that you are our ancestors, so to speak, us being in our reality seemingly about 300 years in your future, we thus reach back to you across that divide from one dimension to the other to also be of assistance to you and to answer the invitation that your people have given off with regard to awakening to spirituality and inviting in any consciousness that is also willing to participate with you in the adventure of that awakening. And so, like the relationship that I have with the physical channel sitting before you, where I am, in a sense, the channel's future self, and the channel, in a sense, is my past incarnation on your planet, we are thus then, in a sense, the same soul. And this is true with many of you on your world. Many of us on our world are, in that sense, the future incarnations of many of you. And thus we will reach back to ourselves through our consciousness, and thus aid and assist you, in your experience, to move up the ladder, even as we also move up the ladder, aided and assisted by higher consciousnesses above and beyond us.
So the soul is a continuum of expression. In a sense, all soul experiences are happening at the same time.
Yes, time in that sense is your illusion in space-time reality. Everything is simultaneously coexistent, yet at the same time, because it is coexistent, we can break through the barrier of the illusion of space and time and speak and connect to any being in any reality, no matter what time frame it seems to exist in within its own cognizance. Yes.
So we are like a film existing within one frame of a continuum,
Yes.
and
we exist in another, but also you can come from the point of view of what you might call the film's projectionist, where you can hold the strip of film in front of your face and see all the frames at the same time.
Exactly. So there might be somebody that wants to channel through Bashar in some greater evolution of this soul's expression.
Yes, and this does occur.
It does. Who would you be channeling?
My own higher self, which is connected to non-corporeal consciousness, connected to the star system that you know as Sirius.
And you are where, in what star system 300 years in the future?
Again, the idea of our star system is called Sha, but it is not in your physical reality, so unless you make a vibratory adjustment to our dimension, our star is invisible to you, and from our reality, your star system is invisible to us unless we shift into your reality. But if we were to overlay our dimensional reality and our galactic coordinates with your dimensional reality and your galactic coordinates, you could say that our star system is about 500 of your light years in the direction of the Orion constellation.
I see. So you sort of moved out of the home planet Earth after the hybridization of the Greys and humans.
I have never existed on your planet. Our civilization in that sense was created, and the planet in that sense was formed for us as well, and our civilization placed on that planet to grow and to learn.
So where's Earth now 300 years in the future? Can you tap into that?
It is, in that sense, a planet that has changed drastically from what you understand it to be in your present day and age, and it is a civilization with whom we interact, and it is a civilization that also belongs as a member of what we might loosely call an association of worlds or an interstellar alliance.
What sort of changes have happened on Earth? I feel close
There
to it.
have been many different kinds of sociological, economic, and political changes. You have created what you may call a type of organizational system that actually functions as a coordinating body to allow there to be the coordination of skills, the coordination of resources for those that require it. There is also the idea of unlimited energy sources tapping into the planet's electromagnetic field directly. In that sense, you have reversed much of the idea of what you call pollution on your planet by that time. You have, in this sense, also erased many of the national borders, not all of them, but many of them. You will find that you have begun to change your economic system to something based on the skill sets of the individuals in the society instead of what you might refer to now as an artificial or arbitrary means of exchange. You have begun to grow more crops in a variety of ways to feed many more people on your planet, but you have also allowed people to begin to extend to other planets as well as you develop spacecraft similar in function to those that we possess.
I know part of the reason you're here is to make this transition into our global conscious society.
To assist you in doing so, not to make it for you, but to assist you by giving you a perspective that works for us, and if you choose to decide that our perspective works for you, then you can in fact incorporate it into your reality as well.
Well, it seems like something's working. We are opening up our consciousness to this type of phenomena, and many people are evolving to a higher state. So this initial change, you said, will begin in 2012, but it's already begun.
The idea of a higher form of accelerated change will allow foundations to be laid down. Even though you are crossing a threshold of energy and consciousness in 2012, you will begin to see some of the fruits of this change between your years of 2025 and 2033. And by 2050, you will find that you will have made enough changes so as to truly be functioning as a full-fledged member of the Interstellar Alliance.
So you've said in the past 1/3 of the population has been abducted by gray aliens in order for your experiment to be carried out.
It is not our experiment. We are the result of the experiment, and it is not exactly an experiment.
Oh, right.
It is the idea of the continuation of their race through the utilization of your genetic material, because the Greys are not extraterrestrials as you understand it. They are mutated humans from a parallel reality who destroyed their civilization and destroyed their ability to reproduce, thus requiring viable human genetic material to create a hybrid race that would continue their civilization, thus coming into your parallel reality by agreement on a higher level and utilizing the genetic material from physical bodies that actually represented incarnations of those gray beings on your planet, and thus then creating a new hybrid race or a series of hybrid races, such as one being ourselves, that would allow their civilization to continue and at the same time also help uplift your world by delivering information and messages to you about your environment and your ecological imbalance to make sure you would not go down the same road that the Greys went down when they destroyed their version of Earth.
But many people are also upset about the fact that they have been used in this experiment. Yes,
It is not an experiment.
Or maybe, sorry, this program, this hybridization people are upset. They may have agreed on one level, but
Yes,
many people are
the physical mind does not often remember that such agreements were made. And while it does not excuse the idea of the fact that many of your people have been traumatized, nothing malicious was intended, but simply misunderstandings in the difference between the gray sense of emotionality and the human sense of emotionality, whereas the Greys for a long time could simply not relate to the idea of the fear that humans experienced because they do not experience the same thing at all. And thus, in knowing that it served a higher purpose, they could not fathom the fearful reaction on behalf of humans. But over time, they have come to adjust their program to take into account the idea that humans have an emotional base very different from their own, and now you will find that the agenda and the program has changed quite drastically.
So in a sense, they've learned and they've developed their own.
They have.
And they've developed an emotionality, which is really, I think...
They have not developed an emotionality so much as they have developed a sense of empathy.
And so these hybrid beings
Yes,
are now...
such as ourselves.
Such as yourselves are much more feeling.
In that sense, we are a balance of both worlds. And thus then, in the creation of the hybrids, the Greys allowed us to also begin to interject and assist within this program so as to bring more understanding of the human side into the program.
So you're feeling love. You're an essence of love.
Yes, we live in a state of unconditional love.
And do you have other emotions, anger, sadness?
We do not choose to experience those things, although we always recognize they are possible to be experienced. We do not invalidate them as choices, we simply do not prefer to choose them. Because we find at this point in our evolution, it simply serves no purpose, and we are transparent enough to ourselves to understand there is no reason to express any situation in that way.
So what do you feel that I could possibly relate to?
Excitement, joy, love, creativity, passion, compassion, empathy, expansion.
I see. And that is a common feeling. So if something doesn't work out or...
There is no such thing from our perspective as something that does not work out. Something may happen that is unexpected, but we rejoice and celebrate in that because we know that it will reveal something to us that heretofore we did not know. And so to us, that is cause for celebration.
Ah, I see. So you're always engaging the unknown with excitement.
Absolutely. In that sense, we never see the idea as an obstacle or an impediment, but simply a challenge to discover something new we did not know before.
So what kind of things happen in your society? I mean, like for instance, the channel, Daryl, may just hang out, talk on the phone, watch television. You know, that's a common sort of thing. But in your civilization...
I specifically am a pilot that pilots a ship, that explores many different civilizations. I am also a first contact specialist, which is why we are having this discussion. Because these discussions are prelude to contact. It is one of the ways, depending upon the society, that we open up to contact by creating these dialogues through individuals such as the channel before you, so that in dispensing information into your society in this way, Your people, based on their belief systems, do not necessarily have to believe that this information is coming from an extraterrestrial source. They can make up their own minds as to whether to apply the information in their lives or not, and we are not in any way, shape, or form forcing you to take our word for anything that we choose to experience. Thus, then, when individuals of their own volition choose to incorporate some of these concepts that we share with you into their own reality, and it changes their frequency, it changes their vibration, it changes their reality, and makes their reality more conducive to contact, then eventually, because of the change in your reality, becoming closer to our reality vibrationally, we can then one day have closer physical contact. But these are the beginnings.
But that's one level of it. That's, you're talking to the conscious mind, physical mind. The other level, there's this 1/3 of the population that has already had contact and been in touch. So,
but that contact is different.
It is, but it's left a mark on the soul. So there's a sort of...
It has not left a mark on the soul. It has only left a mark on the psyche, which is also being adjusted.
So, but we're coming at it from two ways. You're coming at it through the physical mind, and we've already had this experience.
We are coming at it through the physical mind and through your higher mind. Remember that the only way you are capable of actually hearing us and experiencing our vibration is if you model our frequency in your own higher mind and then communicate these concepts to yourself. Otherwise, you are incapable of hearing us because we operate on a completely different frequency.
I see. So you're
then your own higher mind communicates these ideas, trickles them down to your own physical mind, and allows your physical mind to come into harmony with them, so that there is also peace and joy in your own physical mind as well.
I mean, I feel in harmony with you and very much in touch with this. I feel like there's part of me that has already been genetically altered for the last maybe 3 generations in my family.
10
generations, thank you. And they've done this in order to take genetic samplings in order to kind of match the frequency that the Greys want to integrate into their genetic system, right?
Yes.
I see. So...
but again, this is by agreement, whether your physical mind remembers it or not.
Actually, I don't really remember all of it, although I do have vague memories of this little being being placed in my hands.
Yes.
And that was one of my...
early hybrids.
Early hybrid children, in a sense.
Yes.
I see.
Different degrees of genetic material will wind up in different hybrid children.
So I've had a lifetime of abductions, basically, would you say?
If you want to look at it that way, or you could say you have a lifetime of co-participation in a very large-scale program that will benefit your world immensely.
Well, I don't
It depends on how you wish to look at it.
No, I'm actually very honored to be the father of an alien race. I think that's...
We thank you for your participation, without which we would not be.
Right, and I think it's...
Great-great-great-great-great-grandfather.
You mean we're related?
Distantly.
Meaning some of my genetics went into Bashar.
Not directly, but into the lines.
I love that. Thank you. Could I talk to one of my direct descendants?
No.
Okay.
Not in this way.
Okay.
But you have already, many times, in your dream communications. It is simply not appropriate at this moment.
Because I'm not at that frequency.
It is simply not appropriate at this moment.